Hello, everybody. We are reading Oliver Twist, and we are on chapter 9, An Attempt of Robbery. When Nancy and Oliver reached Bill Sykes' house, he appeared at the head of the stairs. "Hello," said Sykes. "So, you've got the kid?" Thus, addressing his new pupil, Sykes pulled off Oliver's cap and threw it into a corner. Then he sat himself down by the table, and the boy stood in front of him. "Now first, do you know what this is?" inquired Sykes, taking up a pocket pistol that lay on the table. Oliver replied in the affirmative. "Well, then, looky here. There's powder and a bullet." And he showed Oliver how to load a pistol. Then suddenly his mood changed. Sykes caught Oliver by the wrist and put the gun so close to his forehead that it touched it. And he said sternly, "If you speak a word when you're out of doors with me, except when I speak to you, that bullet will be in your head. So if you speak without permission, say your prayers first, for you may die." Thus threatening Oliver, Sykes prepared for supper and a little sleep before they left for that night's job. Nancy, scarcely looking at Oliver, threw a handkerchief to tie around his neck. Sykes gave him a large, rough cape, and then Sykes grasped Oliver's hand firmly in his own, and he led him away. He dragged Oliver after him on the road, elbowing his way through the thickest part of the crowd until they came to a quieter part of town. There they saw an empty cart, and Sykes asked the driver to give them a lift to Isleworth. They passed many gentlemen's houses and gardens before they reached a gloomy lane and finally came before a solitary house. The house was in poor condition. It looked like a ruin, and Oliver thought no one lived there. However, as they entered the house, they were greeted with a "hello" by a hoarse voice. Sykes and Oliver entered a low, dark room with a smoky fire and run-down furniture. On the couch sat Toby Cracklet, smoking a long clay pipe. Toby's dirty fingers were covered with cheap rings. He kept twisting the reddish curls that made a circle around the outside of his bald head. When it was 1:30, Sykes and Toby covered themselves in dark shawls and overcoats. They hastily put several articles into their pockets. Oliver stood completely amazed by the sudden unexpected activities. The two robbers set out with Oliver between them. They stopped before a detached house surrounded by a wall. Toby climbed up, and Sykes handed Oliver to him and followed him over. For the first time, Oliver understood the housebreaking and robbery were the aims of their expedition. He was suddenly filled with terror. His eyes became misty, and his face was covered with cold sweat. His limbs had failed him, and he sat upon his knees. Toby placed a hand on his mouth and dragged him to the house. Sykes forced open a shutter that covered a window. The window was just big enough for Oliver to pass through. "Take the lantern," said Sykes. "When you get into the house, go to the front door and open it for us. I'll hold the gun at your back so you don't dare do anything else," he warned Oliver. Oliver crept through the window and jumped into the room. He moved toward the door and made way for Toby and Sykes. As they walked slowly down the hall, Oliver made a plan. He would run upstairs and reveal the evil scheme to the sleeping family, even if that meant death for him. Suddenly he heard Sykes shouting from behind, "Come back!" Oliver was frightened by Sykes' voice and a loud cry from someone upstairs. In his fear, he dropped the lantern. He heard the cry again, and then a light appeared, and Oliver saw two frightened, half-dressed men at the top of the stairs. He saw a flash, and he heard a loud noise. Now the residents of this house had woken up, and they had started firing shots at the robbers and Oliver. Oliver staggered back. Sykes fired his own pistol at the two residents, and in the meantime, Oliver had been hit by one of the residents' shots and was bleeding profusely. Sykes dragged Oliver off the floor and through the door. Oliver heard the noise of firearms and shouts of men. He felt the sensation of being carried over uneven ground at a rapid pace. Then the noises grew distant as a cold, deadly feeling crept over his heart, and he felt completely unconscious. And that's the end of chapter 9. Chapter 9.